Hello, I'm Teacher Robin. Welcome to another live streaming class. Today we're going to be talking about movie recommendations for B1 level English. So, if this is your first time to watch a class, the way that you can participate is by writing in the comments. So I'll be checking your comments as we go along. So if you have a question, feel free to write it down and I will try to answer them all by the time we get to the end of the class. So, I want to give you some movie recommendations for B1, which is an intermediate level of English. So basically, these movies, if you have a B1 level, you should be able to understand most of what's happening in the movie, and I'm going to give you some tips for how to make the most of your movie watching experience and how to learn English with movies. Okay, so the best thing to do if you want to improve a language by watching movies is to watch with subtitles, but in English. So if the movie's in English, put the subtitles in English and that just reinforces what you are listening to. So don't put the subtitles in your native language because then you will spend the whole movie reading and you won't actually be taking in all that vocabulary. So the best thing to do, you can try without subtitles, but if you feel that's too difficult, put the subtitles in English. Okay? If you're watching a movie, you know, most movies last 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, which is a long time if it's not in your native language. So feel free to pause, go back, start again if there's something that you don't understand. So if you're at home, comfortable, if you said, oh, I'm not quite sure what they said in that scene, this might be important, rewind, go back, play it again. It's not a problem. Just make sure the important thing is that you understand. Okay, so like I said, break it up into shorter sessions. So maybe watch for half an hour, pause, take a break, get a drink, get some popcorn, think about what you've just seen before you start another shorter session. So that's a good way to retain everything that you've just heard and experienced. Okay, another thing that you can do is to take notes. So you could keep a notebook and you could write a summary of what's happening every 10 or 20 minutes or so in each scene, or you can write down some key phrases or quotes that you want to remember in the future. So that's another way that you can practice and learn extra English, extra vocabulary. So yeah, make a list of your favorite quotes. So some movies have some really cool quotes in English that you want to remember that you can even bring up in conversation when you're talking to your friends. You can mention a quote that you remember from a movie. Okay, so let's move on to my recommendations for B1 English. Again, so this is like an intermediate level of English. Okay, Toy Story. So this, obviously, there are multiple 1, 2, and 3. You might have already seen these films in your native language because they are very popular Pixar movies. So if you've already seen them in your native language and then you watch them again in English, you already know what's happening. So then you're really focusing on the dialogue. So that helps a lot. The Toy Story movies have really simple grammar because they are, you know, the audience is probably younger, like for children, but adults can enjoy it as well. And it's rich in vocabulary. So this is a really good movie to watch if you want to improve your vocabulary. They use everyday expressions, so it's not going to be anything out of the ordinary. It's going to be expressions that people use all the time that you can understand. And the characters speak with excellent gestures. So they make these movements and use their hand gestures, so that makes it even easier for you to understand what they're saying because they use these gestures. Okay? Another recommendation, Harry Potter. Okay, this is also a popular movie that you might have seen in your native language as well. So join this young wizard on his journey to discover the power that he carries within. You can also familiarize yourself with the game of Quidditch, so that's even a whole new vocabulary related to Harry Potter. If you want to practice a more British accent versus American, then this is a good movie to watch, to listen to practice your British accent. And there's some interesting dialogues, and of course the acting is really good, very exceptional in this movie, all of the Harry Potter series, so feel free to watch any of these to practice your English. Okay, another one, so going back to an American movie, an action-packed film, Terminator 2, any of the Terminators, but specifically 2. This cult movie is very good for practicing your English while seeing explosions. Okay, so when we say cult movie, that means that a movie that is very, very, very popular among a group of people. So we say a cult movie because if you see a movie one time and then you watch it again and again, maybe if there's events related to this movie, then you attend those events, maybe you dress like the characters from that movie. So that's what really makes a cult movie, is a movie that's very, very, very popular, maybe not with everyone, but with a specific group of people. Okay, I see several people are joining us already and have said hello. Darum, Jonathan, Yanapurn, and Mohammed. So thanks for watching, and if you have a recommendation or if you have a question about something that we've just seen, be sure to write it in the comments. Okay, let's move on to our next recommendation, American Beauty. Okay, so this is an Academy Award-winning movie, critically acclaimed drama. This is the story of an American father who enters a midlife crisis that changes his life and the lives of those around him. So, okay, key vocabulary word here, a midlife crisis. So what does that mean? That means when someone reaches the age of late 40s, 50, this is called midlife, because assuming someone might live to like 90 or 100, this is a midlife crisis because you reach this point where maybe you don't know exactly what you're doing with your life, or maybe you've always done the same thing and they're looking for something new, something more exciting, something different from the normal routine. So when people go through this midlife crisis, a lot of times they make some decisions or some changes that are very strange, very drastic. Okay, so this is something that happens in that you'll see in a lot of movies. People, especially men, but sometimes women as well, going through midlife crisis. In this movie, you will hear a lot of colloquialisms and phrases from daily life, so that is going to help you to improve your English and sound even more native. So if you can understand all the dialogue from this movie, then you'll be improving your colloquialisms. Okay, another movie, American movie, Forrest Gump, is a classic, a really good one to watch. In this movie, you'll hear different American accents, so you'll hear people, especially from the South, also in like Washington, D.C. area. So this is a good chance for you to listen to some of the different accents, because they can be very different depending on where the person is from in the United States. Okay, so what's the story about? If you've never heard of it or you haven't seen it, Forrest is a young man from Alabama who is in love with his best friend named Jenny. Okay, so this story takes place throughout many years. Okay, and in one way or another, this boy with an IQ of 75, so that means he's very, very, very smart, he's always involved in the most significant events in the U.S. from the second half of the 20th century. Okay, so from like 1950 all the way through 2000, somehow circumstances in his life allow him to be involved in these really important events in the United States. Okay, so this is a really good movie to watch for some historical references as well, so you can improve your English, you can listen to different accents, and you can learn some about the history of the United States as well. Okay, Clueless. So this is a little bit different kind of movie. It's a more funny gag humor from the 90s. Okay, gag humor is a kind of humor where it doesn't have to involve dialogue. It's more visual. So it could be people falling over. It could be things happening, but it doesn't have to be a joke. It could just be something that you see on screen that is funny. Okay, so this movie uses a lot of gag humor and retro lingo from the teens of the era. So when we say retro, it means from another time, and in this case, the 1990s, which wasn't that long ago, but it's still a different time. So there are some vocabulary words that were very popular during the 1990s that aren't used so much today, but it's good to hear them and to hear them referenced. Okay, and these have some iconic situations that have been replicated in other movies about high schools in the United States. So if you want to know what it was like to attend high school, to be a student during that time, then this is a really good movie to kind of get some insight into what school was like. Okay, another recommendation, Men in Black. Okay, this is another kind of funny, but well, it can also be considered drama, but it's mostly comedy. Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones made the best team of the decade in this film about aliens and state secrets. Okay, so this team, the Men in Black, they interact with aliens. They are talking throughout the entire movie, nonstop dialogue, and even the dogs talk. Okay, so you'll hear different kinds of dialogue from all kinds of different characters in this movie, and it's funny. You'll laugh as you're watching it, so this is a great one to practice. Okay, another recommendation, Indiana Jones. So this is a popular action film, the story of an erudite professor with the soul of an adventurer and his search for the lost ark. So an erudite professor or an erudite person is someone who is very smart, very intelligent, very educated. Okay, so that's an important vocabulary word. What else will we see in this movie? You'll see traps, you'll see bandits. Okay, so these are like thieves, people who steal things. Leaps into the dark, riddles. Okay, so that's like something that you have to solve, something that you have to figure out. And endearing quotes. Okay, so obviously every movie has some quotes that you can take from it. Endearing quotes are ones that really kind of touch your heart, ones that you want to remember, and ones that you can apply to other life situations. Okay, so that's what that means by endearing quotes. And finally, E.T. Okay, so this is another classic movie. There's a variety of dialogues in the movie, but it's shorter, it's very direct and slow. Like the plot line moves rather slowly, so it's very easy to understand what's happening in the movie. It's about an alien who wants to go home and the boy who tries to help him. Okay, so this is another great way to practice with a classic. This is a very popular movie. And again, since it moves a little bit slower, it's very easy to follow along. Okay, so now that I have given you some recommendations, obviously there are many, many, many more movies that a B1 student would be able to understand, but these are some of the classics, some that I think are really going to be useful for you to practice your English. So I want you to tell me in the comments, what is your favorite movie in English and what is it about? So just like I've given you kind of an overview of the storyline, the plot of each movie, if there's a movie that I haven't mentioned that you like and you want to tell us about it, then please write your answer in the comments and I look forward to reading what you have to say. Okay, so as you are writing your answers, excuse me, let me tell you a little bit more about our course here at ABBA. If you want to practice with us at ABBA English, we have a complete course from beginners all the way to business level. And our course is also based on films, but they are short films about everyday situations. So each unit has a short film, a video class with a teacher explaining the grammar, and then you go through different exercises where you practice all of your key skills. So reading, writing, speaking, and listening, those are all covered in the course. So if you want more information, if you are not a student with us already, then you can go to abbaenglish.com and you can get all of the information about our course that you want there. In addition to our course, we are on all of the social media networks, Facebook, obviously, because you're watching us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. We are posting new content on those channels every day, so check it out. It's a great way to practice something really quickly on your way to work, at home, just really short sessions. That's the best way to learn something new every day. You can also check out our blog, which is called our ABBA Journal, and there you can find articles about grammar, culture, English for business, travel, even more movie recommendations. If you'd like to find more information about learning English by watching movies, you can find it on our blog. Okay, so I see we already have a couple of questions. Let's see. Kamel says, what is the difference between thriller and horror movies? Okay, Well, thriller, they're similar. So thriller is something that really keeps you excited, like you want to know what's going to happen throughout the movie. Maybe someone is being chased. Maybe it's like a spy mystery kind of thing. Horror is more scary. So I would say in a horror film, someone dies, someone gets killed, or someone is after you, maybe like a ghost, or a murderer, a serial killer. So that's a little bit the difference between thriller and horror. They're both very exciting, but horror focuses more on the scary, whereas thriller focuses more a bit on the suspense, what's going to happen next. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. Jawed's favorite film is The Notebook. Okay, it's about true love. That's another really good one for about B1 level students. So the story of a couple and their love story from when they're young until they're older. So that's a good recommendation. Thank you, Jawed. Okay, are there any other questions at this time? All right, let me just quickly tell you what we're going to talk about next week. We're going to look at some key expressions and vocabulary for how to express your mood. So depending on the day, depending on the situation, you might be happy, you might be sad, you might be nervous, but those are words that we already know. So we're going to look at some expressions, some different ways to say things like I'm happy, I'm sad. So what are some other ways that we can say that? Okay, so tune in next week for that. I want to thank everyone who has joined us today. Keep writing in the comments because I'll be checking later on today. So if you think of something later, or if I didn't answer your question during the live class, don't worry, I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again for all your great comments and recommendations. I hope you can join us next week, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. So take care. Bye.